Hey guys, welcome back to our channel where we review movies, subreddits, products, whatever.
For our second movie review, we decided to really put ourselves through this sweet torment. That is Troll 2. It is a cult classic that is famous for being one of the worst movies ever made.
I've seen this one before with my brother years ago. It was a completely absurd experience. We had heard tell of how bad it was, but hey, we were bored and we thought we were up to the challenge. Boop boop bada ba bow, history. The history of Troll 2 was an infamously slapdash production. The whole thing was the brainchild of director Claudio Fragasso. Is that offensive? Sorry, a decade of cultural references have caused me to think that all Italians speak like Mario. But anyway, an Italian horror filmmaker who started writing a script in the late 80s that he titled Goblins. The script, no joke, was a way for Fragasso's wife, Rossella Drudi, to vent her anger at several of her friends who had recently gone vegetarian. A fact which Drudi said pissed her off.
What do you mean he don't eat no meat?
Enter the producer, Joe D'Amato. D'Amato is a true businessman, and he's on the record proclaiming that a film's profitability is far more important than its entertainment value. Because of this, many aspects of the production, like the costumes, were accomplished on a shoestring budget, if not for free. Communication on set was difficult. The crew was nearly all Italian, with no fluent English speakers aside from the costume designer. The cast were all Americans who spoke no Italian, and Fragasso and his team had to speak this broken mishmash of Italian and English to direct the cast. Most of the cast have stated since then that they had a very hard time understanding what was going on at any given moment in shooting. Since Fragasso and Drudi did not speak fluent English themselves, the shooting script was written in a poorly translated English, with actors being fed lines scene by scene. Many cast members told Fragasso, hey, I could do this line differently so it sounds more natural and, actually English, the language you're trying to shoot your film in. But Fragasso shot them down, insisting that they read the lines verbatim to the script. In the years since shooting, Fragasso has intensely denied this, even going so far as to shout down the actors at a cast reunion in 2008, calling them dogs and liars. Speaking of the cast, the production company found yet another way to cut costs by hiring mostly inexperienced actors from towns close to the shooting locations, in Morgan and Porterville, Utah. An open casting call pulled in many non-actors hoping to get roles as extras, only to be placed front and center as main characters. Story.
So this movie centers on the Waits family, who are about to go on a month-long vacation where they switch houses with another family in a farming community called Nilbog.
Nilbog, that's a funny name.
It's Goblin spelled backwards!
The night before they're supposed to leave for this trip, Joshua's dead grandpa Seth comes back as a ghost to tell him about the evil vegetarian goblins that turn humans into plant hybrids so they can eat them for some reason.
So in the next room, we meet Joshua's sister, Holly. Holly's boyfriend, Elliot, comes to see her in the middle of the night, which they kind of get into a little bit of an argument about how much time he spends with his friends.
My boys?
And she tells him he needs to pick between her and his
boys.
To show her that he's serious, Elliot promises to accompany her and her family to Nilbog. So the next morning, Elliot fails to show up on time, so the family leaves without him.
Left at 9:30, an hour and a half off schedule, and we never saw a sign of your bow.
Remember how we said the cast was made of non-actors? The dad, Michael, was played by George Hardy, a man who was and still is a dentist with no prior acting experience. He auditioned as an extra because he thought it might be fun. Well, howdy do, I'm gonna go to Hollywood and be in one of them picture films.
On their way up, Grandpa Seth appears as a hobo to warn Joshua that Nilbog is the kingdom of the goblins and they should turn back.
They get to Nilbog, where the native family gives them a stony reception.
Enjoy your stay in Nilbog.
Enjoy our city too.
And leaves.
You'll enjoy our city. It has some smog, it's a little noisy, but our house has all the major conveniences. Yeah, it's got a microwave and video, all the other appliances.
Yeah!
The Waits discover that the other family has left them a spread of food on the table to show them some hospitality.
Typical country hospitality.
All the food is green, but nobody remarks on this. Just then, Grandpa Seth appears at the window and tells Joshua that they mustn't eat the food, or they'll be turned to plants and eaten. With his ghost powers, Grandpa freezes time for 30 seconds, so Joshua can keep them from eating. So the following moment was supposed to play out differently than it ultimately did. In the script, Joshua was supposed to get up on the table and Linda Blair it, yelling, "I'm possessed! I'm possessed!" But at the last second, Fragasso improvised one of the most infamous scenes of this movie. He looked at Michael Stevenson, the then 9-year-old who was playing Joshua, and told him to do, this?
I must do it. I must do it. I must do it.
Ew, he pees on it? And of course Joshua gets in trouble for this and is taken to his room.
Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
What are you going to do to me, Daddy?
For some reason, I totally thought Michael was gonna pee on Joshua, but he's just tightening his belt.
Tightening my belt by one loop so I don't feel hunger pains. You want to show me that you don't like the choice of this house for our vacation by going on a hunger strike? Well, I'll accept the challenge.
Turns out, Elliot and his boys came up to Nilbog in an RV so Elliot could see his girlfriend, and the other guys could cruise for chicks. Arnold, one of Elliot's boys, is tired of being cooped up in the RV and goes on a walk, looking for some smoking hot babes. As you do. He sees a woman running panicked through the woods and naturally chases her down and tackles her. He weirdly starts flirting with her before the goblins show up. Arnold tries to intimidate the goblins, so they shish kebab him with a spear.
So Arnold and the lady flee and find shelter in a weird church. Inside this weird church, there's a bunch of weird potions and stuff. Then they meet this eccentric woman
Credence Leonor Gilgud,
who lives in the church, and she says she'll protect them. So she gives them something to drink, but I don't think that was root beer.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my God!
And the Oscar goes to...
After the lady is eaten, Arnold is bizarrely mutated into a tree for some reason. The actor who played Arnold, Darren Ewing, has since reported that for these scenes he was forced to stand in one position in a flower pot for 14 hours at a time in makeup.
Get me out of here, Drew. Just get me out of here.
To get him to stay in one place, the producers actually screwed his shoes into the ground. Not shoes that they had provided for him. No, his actual personal shoes that he wore to set.
The next morning, there's no food in the house because, Joshua went peed on everything. So Michael and Joshua have to head into town for supplies. The store is closed, so they have to wait, which allows Joshua to just wander off. Joshua finds this creepy warehouse that turns out to be a church, where the townspeople are at a sermon about how evil meat is.
Hamburgers, steaks, the steak sausages, and hot dogs sold by the side of the road. The stink of smoked carcasses.
Joshua, being a careless kid, gets found, and they try to force feed him poisoned ice cream before Michael busts in to find him.
Stop! What are you doing to my son?
We were giving him some ice cream.
Daddy, they're goblins, monstrous beings. They were giving me ice cream so they could eat me later.
An act of imagination. A bit morbid, isn't he?
Checks out.
Drew, another one of Elliot's boys, realizes that there's nothing to eat in the RV, so he goes into town. He's picked up by the sheriff, who offers him a ride to the store and gives him a goopy green sandwich, which he all too readily scarfs down without question. Sweating green like someone who drank Gatorade in the 90s, Drew gets to the store. Then enters our favorite character, the creepy shop owner. The shop owner was played by Don Packard, a man who at the time was a patient of a nearby mental facility. Most of his scenes were shot while he was released on a day trip.
Can I help you?
Eggs.
Packard has stated that just before shooting, he had smoked copious amounts of pot and pretty much checked out mentally while on set. He's even told interviewers that his crazed performance was not acting.
Coffee.
There's no coffee here in Nilbog. It's the devil's drink.
The shop owner tells Drew that they have no eggs, meat,
Are you crazy, boy?
or anything like that. All they got is milk. Drew is told that Arnold is waiting for him at the old church and that he should go meet him there.
So he gets to the church where Arnold has become Groot.
I am Groot.
And tries to get him out of there. But Credence has other plans and chainsaws Arnold to death, and apparently Drew is killed off screen somewhere.
Oh no.
So on their way back from town, Michael and Joshua see Holly and Elliot at the RV and pick them up. The family gets home to discover the residents of Nilbog have thrown a big party to apologize for the misunderstanding at the creepy church. Joshua's not having any of this.
No! Don't eat this stuff! They're monsters! They're all monsters!
So he goes upstairs hoping to contact Grandpa, but instead Credence jumps out of the mirror and attacks Joshua. But luckily Grandpa saves the day by chopping off her hand.
Grandpa Seth pulls a Molotov cocktail out of nowhere and tells Joshua to use it on the goblins. Unfortunately, the priest stops them and takes the cocktail, casting a magic spell to send Grandpa Seth back to hell, implying that he was there anyway.
Don't you tell me what do you, young whippersnapper?
Before going to hell, Grandpa Seth shoots lightning at the Molotov cocktail, sending the priest up in flames. Michael puts him out with a fire extinguisher and sees his true form as a goblin. The Nilbog residents accuse Michael for some reason of killing him. I guess it wasn't the fire that killed him, he was just very allergic to extinguisher fluid. So the villagers surround the house, and the family tries to figure out what to do while they're inside.
Meanwhile, Credence is transported back to the church where she uses a magic stone to heal her hand and also transform herself into a beautiful woman. So then she goes to the RV where Brent, Elliot's last surviving boy, is hanging out. She seduces him with corn, because, you know, corn is so sexy. Leaving him under a metric ton of popcorn.
No more popcorn.
This moment amounts to nothing. Brent is not poisoned or transformed. He is not killed by the popcorn. Nothing. I guess Credence was just bored or something.
So like any good Christian boy, Joshua suggests they hold a seance to contact Grandpa Seth in hell, returning Grandpa Seth into a physical form for only 10 minutes, before he has to go back to hell.
The goblins breach the house and attack the family. Seth transports Joshua to Credence's church, where
he gives Joshua a paper bag that he says contains a secret weapon.
A double-decker bologna sandwich!
Don't do it! Think about the cholesterol. Think about the toxins.
he and his family touch the magic stone and concentrate on the power of goodness, which kills all the surrounding goblins and Credence.
So after that major inconvenience they all experienced, they return home feeling tired instead of just horrified and traumatized. Joshua's mom at home eats an apple, which turns her to green goo, and some of the goblins eat her. The end. Final thoughts. So what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, there were definitely things I didn't understand. I didn't understand, like, the grandpa's ghost powers, like, he could just, like, summon weird things, but then there was also weird restrictions he had, why he was still able to come back from being sent to hell from that priest. And also, there are no trolls in this movie. Not sure why it's called Troll 2.
Funny you should mention that. Apparently Fragaso's original script was titled Goblins, like I said earlier, and after watching the movie, the distributors didn't have faith that this movie could survive the box office as a standalone film. I know, right? So they made this bizarre decision to market it as a sequel to an unrelated 1986 movie called Troll. It's absolutely insane. But as for my final thoughts, I love this movie and how utterly insane it is. There is no rhyme or reason to anything, and it just plays like some crazy fever dream. If you want a so bad it's good movie, this is exactly that movie. It's hilarious. Play it at 2 a.m. with your boys and some pizza, and it'll be the best night ever. So what would you rate this?
Well, overall, it's pretty bad, so I'd probably give it a 2 out of 10.
I'm gonna have to agree. 2 out of 10 for my real score, but another unofficial 8 out of 10 for so bad it's good value. So what did you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Tell us what we should review next. This is Totally Stoked Reviews, signing off. Hey, you should subscribe.